during a star, and I'm going to go through this really old Bible. I think those who know me before know that I have a really old Bible. And I'm going to read bits of it. So yeah, tomorrow is used in scripture and definitely for any time to come. Okay. Tongue. The word is taken in three different senses: for the material tongue or organ speech, for the tongue of language that is spoken. In any country, for good or bad discourse. Thus we say a bad tongue, a slanderous tongue, or simply to have a tongue to speak much. Many questions are proposed about tongues, taken in the second sense or for language. For example, this asked if God was the author of the first tongue, and if he gave it to Adam by its union, or if Adam invented it and acquired it by industry and labor. If this tongue is still in being, if so, then which is it? Profane authors and such as had no knowledge of the Holy Scripture or the history of the creation of the world imagined that men were produced by chance in different parts of the world and came out of the ground as also all other animals besides that. At first they had no language, nor any notions of things, that first of all mere necessity and afterwards conveniency taught them to invent certain sounds or words by which to communicate their notions to one another. That hence languages were formed, which became different from each other, because they were invented separately and their authors had no communication with one another. But the knowledge we have now of the origin of mankind does not leave us any room to doubt. But as God created Adam perfect, so he endued him with language to express his thoughts and conceptions. Therefore, we find that the first man, presently, after his creation, returns answers to God, speaks to his wife, gives names to brute creatures, his children and successors probably spoke the same language as themselves, down to the deluge and after the deluge till the confusion of tongues that happened in Babel. Men are not agreed as to the manner of which this famous confusion was brought about. This doubted whether all of a sudden God might not make all men forget their own language and give them a new one, entirely different from the former, or whether by confounding their ideas and disturbing their imaginations, he put into their mouths different dialects of the first language. I think that's what's happened. Basically, it just got changed from the original language and just formed into different dialects, basically. And then they could just no longer understand each other, and hence why they couldn't build their tower. And that's how languages came about. This I know that. So that the primitive tongue remaining uncorrupt in some families became at once a foreign tongue to those that spoke it before, as also the dialects of the primitive language became barbarous and unknown to those who were depositaries, as it were, of the ancient language. Or, lastly, whether God might not permit that man should be perplexed and become unintelligible to each other, and therefore separate, and that their separation should give occasion to this change of language by the necessary consequences of the distance of place and want of communication with each other. These several opinions have each had their patrons and maintainers. The thing is, the whole reason why the Lord changed the tongue was because humans were being evil on earth. When you think about it, like he separated them in continents so that they can't work together. And now what do we have? We have like social media where everybody speaks the lingo franco, and the world couldn't be any more connected. And when the world's connected, men will behave in their carnal self and their old bad ways as we are seeing through social media. So maybe God can just stop technology then. If he managed to change languages and disperse the people through different languages, maybe God would probably put a stop to social media and communication and technology. I honestly think that that's the next step for human mankind, is to stop technology, to stop social media, because we can't, as a race, we can't be trusted, because the people that are in power now, the humans, will use it against what God, what intends us to live our lives by. And just, I think that that's the next step. Anyway, just thought I'd mention that. So where was I? It says here, these several opinions have each had their patrons and maintainers, as may be seen by the great number of books, and have been published in this subject, and particularly by the new dissertation on the confusion of languages, which we have lately published in the collection of our differentiation and prefaces, printed by themselves at Paris. Really? Paris? As to the first tongue which God communicated to Adam at his creation, some learned men maintain that it is absolutely lost. No, it's not. It's Amharic, and that no knowledge of it now remains among men. Others pretend that there still remain some ruins of it in the Hebrew tongue and in other Oriental languages, but that there is now no monument remaining where it can be found entire in its original purity, and that there are no people that speak it, or that at any time have spoke it since the confusion of Babel. Others again maintain that Hebrew tongue was the tongue of Adam and of the first men, but others give this honor to the Chaldee or Syriac tongue. Duh, that's Amharic. That's my language. Yeah, that's the original language. That's the first language humans spoke. See, Chaldee is Amhara language. Or to the Arabic, or to some other languages, as the Armenian, the Persian, the Chinese, the Tudesc, there having been but few nations in the world which had not the ambition of having their own tongue to be taught the language of Adam, and the most perfect of all languages, which is Amharic, in my opinion. But the opinion the most generally followed is this, that the first language continued in some families which either had no share in the undertaking of Babel, or at least had not those views of pride and rebellion which God punished by the confusion of language of those that were found guilty. This thought that Eber, the father of Pele, one of the ancestors of Abraham, had the privilege of preserving the first language and took great care to perpetuate it in his family. This opinion lies under great difficulties, concerning which the reader may consult the article Eber. But what is most favorable circumstance to the Hebrew tongue, and which gives it some probability, is of its having been the language of Adam, are the etymologies which it furnishes of the ancient names of men, of countries, rivers, and deities, which are most ancient things now remaining in the world, and which are the least liable to change, a prerogative which is not to be met with extensively in any other language. For though the Arabic, Syriac, Chaldean, and perhaps some other languages may supply us with the like etymologies, yet they are neither so numerous nor so natural. They often fail in the earliest and most obvious cases. Lastly, the Chaldee, Syriac, Arabic tongues being to be regarded only as daughters and branches of Hebrew. The evidence that can be produced to their advantage will bring no prejudice to the Hebrew, but rather support the confirm what may be said in favor. To know one's tongue is a token of fury, despair, and torment. The men that were worshippers of the beast gnawed their tongues for pain. Oh dear, and blasphemed to the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. Tongue of the sea, tongue of the land are terms used in scripture for the extremity and point of the Dead Sea. For example, initium ejus a fumitate maris falsifini a lingua ejus que respicity meridian, or Peninsula, a cape, a promontory of land stretching out in the sea. Lingua aeturis, a tongue of blessing and kindness put in opposition to an ill tongue, a tongue of reproach and scandal. The first promotes friendship, the maintains love and concord among men. The other is a cause of destruction and creates hatred, division, and misunderstanding. Yeah, there is power in words. There really is, and the Bible clearly says that. And the press say really horrible, nasty things, and they know about the power of words. You know, you can use it for destruction if you want to, and that's what it's saying here. Now, flagellum lingui, the flail of the lash of the tongue, are malicious discourses, scandal, calumny, insult. Okay.